Gavin, welcome to episode 4 of Metropole Live. So last week's episode saw 961 views across our social media platforms, ever closer to that 1,000 view mark, as we continue to give you guys, the community, an insight into what happens behind the scenes at GEMS Metropole. So on that note, this week we're looking at English, and my two special guests are leaders within their field. So my first guest, Miss Lorraine, is Head of Secondary English, and she's going to be talking to us more about how that high quality provision in the classroom is transferred to online learning. And my second guest, Miss Dania, she is Head of Writing in Primary, and she is going to be talking about how there's a consistent approach to monitoring and looking at that high quality provision, how we're ensuring it is consistent across the primary school. So, without further ado, let's meet my first guest. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Alex.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show. We're lucky to have you. I know you're extremely busy up there in secondary at the moment and in your English department, so I've probably caught you on your only 5 minutes you have free today. So 5 weeks into distance learning now, how are you finding it?
Well, it's certainly not without its challenges, but not all of those are necessarily negatives. And I think I speak for us all when I say that I miss the personal interaction that we have with our students within the physical school and classroom as opposed to the virtual environment that we have now. And yes, there are sometimes glitches, technical glitches, lags, connectivity issues, but it's also been quite an eye-opening experience. And I think it's really challenged us to kind of rethink the nature and the content of lessons, the language that we use, the resources that we've traditionally employed. And it's challenged us, I think, into rethinking the ways in which we create real challenge and opportunities for true creativity and innovation for our students. And I have to say that I've been impressed, really impressed by our students and the resilience that they've shown, the quality of work that they're producing. And in turn, it's kind of encouraged us to make sure that we are constantly evolving what we do to ensure that we're continuing to meet their needs. So, yeah, so overall positive, really.
Yeah, and all those positives you mentioned there are what we're also seeing reflected in parent feedback and feedback from the community, which is fantastic. I know when I walk around the school and drop into lessons and pop into classes, you can see the children are engaged, you can hear that buzz of learning. How are we reflecting that engagement in online learning within English up in the secondary?
Well, I mean, all of the lessons that we create, we ensure that there's a variety of challenges for students of all abilities to embrace, and rather than dictate those challenges, which perhaps we traditionally did in the classroom environment, and assigning those to specific groups, we're actually giving students more freedom and encouragement to choose the level of challenge that's most appropriate for themselves. Because otherwise, I think that without meaning to, I think that sometimes when we're assigning challenges that we're actually hampering their progress, hampering learning. We also have been able to make our lessons even more relevant to the actual experiences of our children, so that they're actually responding to the world and the situation that we're finding ourselves in right now in a much more meaningful and authentic way, rather than them imagining a situation and responding to that. They're actually living it right here, right now. And so we've used that within our resources and within our project-based tasks that we're setting them. So, I mean, obviously in the classroom, we'd be able to see the physical engagement of our students and not so much online. And that's why we use a number of strategies to ensure that they're engaged right from the very beginning, and whether that's through the launch meetings that we start, where we have the actual interaction, the virtual interaction with our students, where we will post the task or pose the task or the question that we're going to set them, or the problem that they're going to solve throughout the course of that lesson, and guide them through that process, allowing them to ask for clarification, ask further questions, or respond to specific questions that we have posed throughout that. We also then, throughout the lesson, ensure that there's different tasks that they're doing, that it's not all the same, because we know that what might be new, different and exciting this week can quickly become routine, boring and uninspiring the next. So we're constantly changing things and ensuring that we're providing a varied and interesting set of resources and challenges to enable our students to develop those key skills, those independence, those research skills, opportunities for collaboration, innovation, And that's why we've moved now more towards project-based learning, where the students have a clear product in mind, and they're building those skills in order to be as creative and innovative as they possibly can be. And as I said before, we've been totally overwhelmed by the manner in which our students have embraced online learning, and the high quality of their responses to the tasks and assignments set, again making us develop our practice even further, to enable, as I said, students the opportunity to show us what they are truly capable of, rather than what we think they are capable of.
Yeah, and you can see from many of the aspects you've mentioned there, it's the focus on personalised provision and the amount of work yourself and your team are putting in the English department to make sure that everything is current and relevant and engaging. But you've got that engagement captured now. How do you make sure that the work the children are producing is of that high quality that you'd expect in an English department up in the secondary at Metropole?
So every lesson or suite of lessons has clear learning objective, success criteria to show students exactly what they need to do to demonstrate their learning, as well as a range of bronze, silver, gold, and even platinum tasks, which are challenges again designed to promote active learning rather than hamper it. And then throughout the lesson, so we've obviously had our lesson launch meeting first, and throughout the lesson we'll use a range of strategies, whether that's posting a question on the channel thread, whether that's devising a poll, or calling a progress check meeting, or students presenting their ideas in the planning, editing, or final stages of their work, which actually has also meant that we're able to assess the progress of our students in real time, even more so than in the physical classroom, where you've got the physical space, the limitations of physical space, and actually being able to physically get around to all of the students. Actually, by doing things like polls, we're actually able to see the engagement of all students and the progress or misunderstandings as they happen, when they happen. As a department, we're collaborating more than ever before, challenging ourselves to make sure that we are continuing to meet the evolving needs of our students, which are becoming more and more apparent as we started this online journey. So we're employing a range of resources and strategies to ensure that students are at the various stages in their learning and exactly where we want them to be.
Yeah, and one thing that's coming across in this interview today is how passionate you are about your subject and your department, but also how you and your department have taken this pandemic that's been thrown on us and utilised it into a positive learning experience. You're taking every week as it comes, making engaging lessons and really furthering these children's education. And that's not done on its own overnight. That's a credit to what you guys are putting in place. So we thank you for that, and I know the community does. So kind of a really well done from us. But thank you for coming on today. I know you're extremely busy. I need to let you go and get back to everything you're sorting. But really, really nice having you on the show today, Lorraine.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Thank you.
I think it's obvious from that interview we can see why online learning is working so well within the English department in secondary, with a leader who is that passionate about her subject and obviously works so closely and collaboratively with her team to make sure that personalised provision and all the high quality aspects of English is being given through this distance learning provision. So Lorraine, thank you for giving us that insight. So leaving English in secondary, we're going to walk through the corridors and find our way down in primary, where we're going to meet our head of English writing, Miss Dania. Hi, Dania.
Hello.
So we finished week 5 of distance learning now. Thank you for coming on. I really just want to find out how you're finding distance learning at the moment.
It's very challenging. I think a lot of staff and teachers will agree with me, but it's so rewarding because the children are now really beginning to take that independence. They're being able to navigate teams, can be a real kind of minefield at some points. And we're actually managing to get what we get in the classroom now. Some of that great progress is starting to come through and see that quality. So at the moment, it's going really well. And we've had so much support from parents as well, and lots more contact via emails and things. So at the moment, it's going really well, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, because I know when I come into a classroom and observe or just pop in, your teaching is really engaging and exciting. The children are always gripped to the lesson. How do you kind of reflect that in the English online learning you're doing?
I think it's all about trying to be as enthusiastic and as smiley and as positive as you can, because all you have is your face on a screen. You can't kind of have that personal interaction as much. So that's a main part of it. But in terms of English, we try to kind of plan kind of genres outside of the box. So we've been currently writing a meditation, obviously as well to support our children's well-being during this difficult time. Which has been a real challenge for me as a kind of an English leader in terms of what that looks like, a guided meditation. But the children have absolutely loved it, and they've also kind of recorded their own podcast versions of it all, and we've all tried each other's. So that's the way we've kind of kept that English spark alive, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about podcasts, and you can see how you are coming up with different creative ways, but from leading English writing across the primary, how do you make sure this kind of happens across the school, or the high quality kind of provision happens?
Well, yeah, it's quite amazing, really. You know, working alongside SLT and things like that, we're still managing to conduct our monitoring and supporting heads of years and teams. So, speaking to heads of years recently, I spoke to the year one team. Some fantastic work going on in there, like modelling using the fridge, and we're still doing kind of live talk for writing, story mapping, and it's amazing to hear. And the same, you know, in year three, they're doing Alice in Wonderland, and all the great teaching and learning is still happening. We can still kind of pop into certain lessons, which is a great tool just to kind of see how things are going, give feedback to staff, and obviously we're still monitoring planning and assessment and things like that. But there's been some fantastic issues, and also things kind of linked to obviously the current situation. Lots of kind of like information text going on the current, you know, the global pandemic. So the children are kind of really getting involved across primary, and it's great for me to see as a leader. So yeah, it's been brilliant. And also I've been trying to do some videos to kind of share my own practice. Not that I'm a master of it, we're all still learning on here how to make our learning outstanding and, you know, support our children with English, because it is tough, obviously, online. But we're getting there. So yeah, it's all working well really at the moment. Everyone's supporting each other.
Yeah, you can see your kind of passion for teaching that comes through your subject, and it's nice. The primary is very collaborative in the way you kind of leaders work with everyone and support. So we're seeing the benefits from that. The parents are really happy, and the children seem engaged and happy, which is the main thing. But I'm not going to keep you too long. I know it's early. You've got a busy day ahead of you. So
Go.
thank you so much for coming on, and we will catch up with you later on.
Bye. See you later.
It's lovely having Miss Dania on the show today and giving us that insight and behind the scenes look at how English is led across the primary, and how she works closely with heads of year and different teachers, sharing good practice, monitoring planning, and ensuring that personalised provision is of a high quality for all the students in English throughout the primary. So thank you, Miss Dania, for coming onto the show. So that's it for this week. We won't be doing the live show on Sunday through the holy month of Ramadan, but what I would like is if you have any questions linked to English, if you pop them in the comments below on YouTube, then we will answer those at the start of next week's session. So, until next week, goodbye.